Hello, many Republicans mobilizing against bipartisan infrastructure bill. The bipartisan group of senators who crafted the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is preparing to take a victory lap as the Senate moves toward passing the bill in the coming days. But a large number of Republicans are mobilizing against the bill that includes $1.2 trillion of spending and $550 billion in new spending on hard infrastructure projects such as rail, roads, electric vehicle charging station and broadband. After the group of bipartisan senators introduced the bills in text on Sunday night, Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee gave a long floor speech in opposition to the legislation, arguing that the Constitution does not give Congress to go out and spend money anything that we deem appropriate and that the price tag is too high. Shame on us for making poor and middle class Americans poorer so that we can bring praise and adulation to ourselves and more money to be small handful of wealthy well connected interest in America, Lee said. UN condemns dangerous claims of bias against aid workers in Tigray. The UN's humanitarian chief on Tuesday condemned dangerous accusation by Ethiopian government officials that aid workers were biased in favor of and even arming rebel forces in war-hit Tigray. Martin Griffiths also called for access to allow desperately needed aid into the northern region where the UN says hundreds of thousands of people are suffering from famine. Taliban take much of a provincial capital in South Afghanistan. The Taliban pressed ahead with their advances in southern Afghanistan on Tuesday, capturing 9 out of 10 districts of the Helmand provincial capital. Residents and officials said Afghan government forces launched airstrikes backed by the US in a desperate effort to defend the city of Lashkargah. The fall of Lashkargah would be a major turning point of the offensive the Taliban have waged over the past month. US and NATO forces complete their pullout from the war-torn country. It would also be the first provincial capital captured by the Taliban in years. Residents of the city speaking to the Associated Press over the telephone said the fighting has them trapped, uncarried down inside their homes and unable to step out for basic supplies. They said the Taliban fighters were out openly in the streets and that all but one Lashkar Haga district was under Taliban control. White House calls on states to prevent evacuation crises. The White House scrambled on Monday to head off a crisis after the federal moratorium on evacuation expired over the weekend, pressuring states to speed disbursement of billions in bottled up rental assistance and calling on local governments to enact their own extension. The moratorium imposed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention last fall during the height of the pandemic lapsed on Saturday after frenzied effort to extend the freeze through the end of the year failed on Capitol Hill, putting hundreds of thousands of tenants at risk of losing shelter. There is just a lot of fear right out there now, said Bob Glames, executive director of the Chicago War Foundation, which has been working with tenants and lenders to tap to 47 billion found allocated by Congress to pay off back rent accrued during the pandemic. Biden administration digs in heels on controversial Title 42 border order. The Biden administration is digging in its heels on a controversial border order amid a torrent of criticism for immigration advocates and an ongoing lawsuit. The administration on Monday indefinitely extended the public health order known as Title 42 that allows border agents to immediately expel migrants caught crossing the border illegally, depriving them of the right to seek asylum in the US. Rucheli Wilenskoy, director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, issued a new order citing the spread of the virus Delta variant, the increase in migrant apprehensions at the border, and limited capacity of customs and border patrol facilities. The new order came on the same day that the American Civil Liberties Union and other advocacy groups filed to resume their lawsuit against the Biden administration seeking to end the policy. The groups earlier this year pushed the lawsuit, which was filed in January, and entered into negotiations with the administration, but those talks reached in impasse according to the filing. Biden team calls for organizing voter superstition activities, say that insulting. Civil rights groups have accused President Joe Biden of empty platitudes on voting rights after he defended the filibuster as his administration reportedly shifts focus away from passing major legislation and toward push to out-organize new Republican voting laws inspired by former President Donald Trump's false claims of election fraud. In unusually forceful rhetoric, Biden has compared new restriction in Republican-led state to Jim Crow-era racial voter suppression and called the one slugget of legislation to limit ballot as the most significant list of our democracy since the Civil War. But in the eyes of many activities, he has refused to follow up those words with action. Last week, Biden forcefully defended the filibuster, which has prevented any voting legislation from advancing in the Senate. Since Trump destroyed America's credibility on climate change, former President Donald Trump all but destroyed America's credibility when it comes to addressing climate change, John Kerry said in a new interview with the New Yorker magazine. Kerry, the former Democratic presidential candidate and Secretary of State, is President Biden's special envoy for climate, asked how costly the Trump administration had been in the global effort to curb greenhouse gas emissions as a way to mitigate rising temperatures. Kerry pulled no punches. The damage that President Trump wreaked worldwide is not limited to climate, but on climate he did a hopper of a job of putting America's credibility in a terrible place, destroying it fundamentally. Kerry responded, I hear from country after the country. How do we know can count on America? How do we know that another president is not going to come along, someone like Trump who does the same thing again? As President Trump refrained from speaking about climate change, which he had previously dismissed as a hoax perpetrated by China in an attempt to damage the US economy. Okay, let's see today's weather report. Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Kansas. The weather in the state will be very good, no chance for any rain. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut. The sky will be clear in all these states. There is no possibility of rain in evening.